This is Mary Helen Berlanga. I'm running for Nueces County Judge. As an attorney, I have 40 years of experience helping the poor, the disabled, and families. Also, I have served you for 30 years on the State Board of Education as a champion for children. With my years of experience and your vote, I will be your next Nueces County Judge.
And we're back after this break. It's my honor to bring on somebody who is no stranger to public service, who has done so much for education and so much for people here in South Texas, and whose family has as well. And that's none other than Mary Helen Berlanga. Welcome. How are you?
Hi, very good. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. It's an honor to have you on.
Well, thank you.
David, you're a big supporter of yours, made it happen. David Berlanga, ladies and gentlemen. So you've got a great person in David there. Yes. And how is he related to you?
David Berlanga is my son.
See, now I gave you a plug, I promised.
There's several David Berlangas in town, but my son, he is so hardworking, and he does tell me, Mom, you've got to go to this place or that place. And he said, be sure and go to Joe Flores' program. And I said, I will be there.
Well, you know, everybody, we want to try to get out the vote. Recuerda que su voto es su voz. Si no votas, no puedes quejar después. And so get out there. You have a hotly contested race, against your opponent, Lloyd Neal. Let's just jump in feet first. Why should the voter vote for you instead of Neal?
I believe that we need transparency in government. We have been having an individual in public office who likes to conduct secret meetings. If you think back to when they were doing the redistricting, that was done in conjunction with attorneys that Lloyd Neal brought in from Houston, I believe, and they worked out a plan to do a redistricting to get one of his friends to win that spot. It was done in secret. People weren't invited to attend. You know, when I have served on the State Board of Education, we were always open to the public. And everything that we did was very transparent. People came in, they would speak. Even on redistricting, we were invited to go across the state when we were looking at redistricting, even for the state board. So that should have happened in Corpus Christi, but instead it was, closed meetings, making decisions behind closed doors, and I think that needs to end. I also think that besides the transparency in government, that we have an individual that has been wasting a lot of our taxpayer money. That group that came in to do the redistricting cost us about $158,000, according to Dr. Robert Besdick, and that is taxpayer money. That's not private funds. Those weren't his funds. Those were taxpayer money done in secret. I think when the disability folks came in, when the Department of Justice came in and said, you're deficient in certain voting areas because you've got disabled people who aren't able to vote, instead of immediately looking for a remedy, 2 years later, he pays a consultant $100,000 to see what he should do. I mean, he should have just gone in there immediately and remedied the situation. Again, that cost taxpayer money because that was like another $100,000. And right now there's a building that stores files. He's paying $250,000 to store files. Why doesn't he have someone this last year, because he did say, oh, that contract ends this year. Well, if it ends this year, why hasn't he had someone looking at that material and downloading it and getting it onto a computer system so that we don't have to spend $250,000 on a building. And he said, well, we're looking into another building. I'm thinking that's not the point. It's not the building. It's the money. It's taxpayer money that's being wasted. That's more than most people's salaries. So again, it's a great deal of waste that's going on at the county. Besides that, our taxes continue to go up. Our taxes on our homes. Now he'll tell you, oh, I've lowered taxes. Well, I don't know where he's living, but every year my taxes have gone up. And I have been a resident of Nueces County for many, many years. I think that we need someone in this position who is committed to representing the people, who will represent taxpayers, who know that we have a vested interest in this. Any decision that's made at the county, it should be an open process, and everyone that wants to attend should be able to attend. And we all have a vested interest. We should not be spending taxpayer money when we're wasting it. And those are some of my concerns.
Let's talk numbers and put pencil to paper. Bond issues. What are some of the things that your opponent has done that, in your opinion, well, in many people's opinion that you've talked to, that you told me about, just right now, how much money are we talking?
Well, okay.
I mean, we heard about the storage, $250,000.
Yeah.
For
well,
storage.
let's go back to when he was mayor.
Okay.
He passed or requested us to pass bond issues that were millions of dollars. And I can't remember the exact figure
Factory Channel?
because it was that too. But no, this was to repair streets.
Okay.
And the sad thing is, he may have done a little bit of repair, but he never used that money to do all the repairs that he was going to do on our streets. So he left the mayor position, and what happened? No one knows what happened to that money, where it was used. But
Wow.
we authorized bond money, millions of dollars, to repair the streets. So why do you think people have lost trust in our county government and in the city government? Someone else comes in, they inherit that problem, and they blame the next person. But really, it goes back to when Lloyd Neal was mayor of Corpus Christi. And that's just one example.
People will say, well, if all that's true, then what are the solutions? If you would serve as our county judge and be elected in, what would you do differently from day one?
Transparency in government. I believe that it would be an open process for all to come in and witness. They could be involved in the process. When we have agenda items that come forward, we would have an opportunity to have public hearings to allow input. I would certainly listen. Another thing that I would do is I would assign committees. There's nothing better than to get experts in an area that you're discussing, experts in the field, to come in and volunteer their time to tell us and recommend things. Now, we've got some excellent people that work at the county level that deal with budgets, but I'm talking about issues that are confronting the county. If we get those individuals that are expert to be part of a committee to help us as we look at each issue, not only are you involving the community, you're looking at the expertise, and it's not just one person doling out favors to his friends.
Your past experience in education, how would that lend to your leadership running the county?
Well, in more than one way. I think one example is just what I said, where you actually look to experts in the field, whether they're university professors, whether they're other individuals who have educational backgrounds in a particular area, whether it's an attorney, a pharmacist, a doctor, whatever the area. For example, right now I know there are problems in the health department because that came out in the newspaper. That's an area that we would have to look at, and we would have to bring in expertise from the medical field to help us look at the health department. I think those are issues that I would address, having had that experience at the state level and how we involved people in making decisions that would impact the entire state. Another thing that I would do is I would do a lot more grant writing. I would involve people in writing grants and doing that in conjunction with different universities where they might help us solve some of the problems facing the county.
Big issue that I know that you were vocal on, that your opponent was criticized about, saying this was politics, they wanted to get this through quickly, was Memorial, the closing of Memorial Hospital, and the proposed added on of services. Honestly, I don't know how this is going to benefit the people that most need it if we tear down Memorial Hospital.
That was another bad decision, a very bad decision for this community. And it was another one that was done behind closed doors. By the time we got notice, which was an article that appeared in the paper around June or July, people in the community got involved, but it was too late. The deal had already been cut with Spahn. And the sad thing is that it's going to be a burden that's going to be carried on by our children and grandchildren. And the reason I'm saying that is because they've decided that they are going to accept $29 million of taxpayer money, and they're going to use that every year until the year 2036, and possibly extensions on till 2056. And Spahn says that's for the indigent care. Well, the government matches that money with another 60%, as I understand it. The problem with that is we don't know how many indigents there are going to be in a year or 5 years. Certainly, we're not going to know how many indigents are going to be in 30 years. So why are we as taxpayers carrying the burden when we're not even going to have a hospital? They're taking the hospital away. They're demolishing it in 5 years, and yet we're going to be carrying the burden of paying $29 million of taxpayer money. That is not fair, and it's not just. Another thing is you're taking a hospital away from an area that takes care of, well, it takes care of everyone because it's got the trauma center. But besides that, we've got the west side and the north side that are now going to be with no hospital.
That's right.
No emergency room. Now, if you live on the south side, you have Bay Area, you have Spahn South, you even have the one on Alameda, Doctors Regional. You have lots of emergency rooms in all of those hospitals. Plus, there are building more emergency rooms on Staples near Saratoga. There's an urgent care, and now they're building an ER. How convenient for all of us on the south side. What are we doing to a whole portion of our community? We're leaving them without hospitals, without a hospital, and without an emergency room, and we're giving them a clinic. We've got clinics all over Corpus Christi. We've got one on Greenwood. We've got one on Sam Rankin. We've got clinics everywhere. What we don't have enough of are hospitals. And an example of how necessary it is to continue to have a hospital there was the other day when we had they told us that there might be someone who came off of a ship with Ebola. Where did they take him? Immediately to Memorial Hospital. So what's going to happen if Memorial's not there and we have an outbreak, God forbid, an outbreak, whether it's Ebola or something else? Where do we take them?
Well, and the trauma doctor, Dr. Blow, I did some research into him. He's basically an executive for Spahn. He gets $366,000 just right out of the chute. $250,000 just to be their spokesman and have a lab coat on and say, we're going to have the same trauma services. Everything's going to be good. Kumbaya. And it's just not going to be that. The psych services, you already have homeless people streaming downtown. If I walk outside, there's somebody that has mental problems. Yes. And those services that are desperately needed. And as you said, this is a big issue. And I think Memorial, your opponent, and just to be fair, I did ask him about this, and he had a totally different opinion. But in my opinion, I think that they did try to bullet it through and try to get it done and do everything after the elections also. As far as the final things that are going to be done, they kind of just try to keep it. But a lot of people really got incensed about this with a lack of transparency.
Well, not only that, they said we're taking the residency program, we're taking the mental health, we're taking the trauma center. I mean, the list goes on. they take the mental health issue. I said, oh my gosh, you're taking that to Spawn South, so then you're going to have the people roaming around Ocean Drive and Alameda, and then the next thing I heard is we're not sure where we're going to put.
They don't want to do
health
that.
issues.
It's like making Ben Taub in Houston, marrying Ben Taub with Methodist. And it's just not going to work. Right now at Spawn Shoreline, I'm not being critical of the nurses, they're just not getting that many trained nurses, and it's 12-hour wait just for minor stuff.
Oh, yes.
And 2-day wait to get a bed. And now they're thinking of these cosmic leaps. Some of the insiders at Spawn told me they were trying to sell to Baylor, and they were trying to dump Memorial because it was like the house that has a room with mold in it. They didn't want Memorial, so they could sell to Baylor, or they could sell to somebody else and get out of the deal. And when that fell through, so there's a lot of things going on that are lack of transparency. I don't want to lay it all at the feet of the county judge, but these things.
Well, the fact that he was jumping on the bandwagon before the community knew about it,
too.
And they said that it was since October of 2012, if you went to the meeting, that they've been talking about this since 2012. Well, hello, they didn't let the rest of the world know about it.
I let Judge, I let Judge Jag, now Commissioner Jag, have it too. He came out and hashed it out, and I asked him that too, and he said, well, I didn't want it to be on the backs of taxpayers. What exactly is going to happen? All overnight, all of a sudden, now they want to fix Morgan and Elizabeth Streets?
Exactly.
And who's going to pay for that?
It's exactly right. When that article
Living off
came
your
out,
dollar, LOYD.
When that came out in the paper, I said, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
They said, oh, it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money, and yet we're the ones paying for that bond. We're the ones paying to repair the street all around Spawn.
For those sick and tired of business as usual, what's the magic number to call to jump on your bandwagon and get you elected?
779-9392.
That's easy. 779-9392. Call up Mary Helen Berlanga, wants to be your county judge. It's getting hot. Political election season. And last day of early voting is Halloween. And then we're going to have Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th.
That's correct.
So get out there and vote. And remember that when you say politics doesn't affect me, the minute you turn on a light and you brush your teeth and then you go to the restroom and go to sleep at night after a shower, I mean, you're in politics.
That's
Water,
correct.
Electricity, you're paying for it. So
That's right.
how about, you're on Facebook too, I know that.
Yes, there's a Facebook page.
Okay, and so people want to volunteer. Is there an email that we can put on the bottom of the lower third too?
Email maryhberlanga@gmail.com. That's
Very
an easy
easy.
one.
maryhberlanga@gmail.com. And thank you for coming on and
you.
the straight talk. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.